The realtor was already halfway through the sentence when I understood what was happening, and I understood it the way you understand a car accident. In the half-second between hearing the tires and feeling the impact, she said, "Congratulations, you two. This is such a wonderful first home for a young couple." And Dana, standing beside me in the sunlit kitchen of a house neither of us had any business being in, squeezed my forearm through the sleeve of my coat and said, warmly, brightly, without looking at me, "My boyfriend and I love it. We'll take it." And the realtor turned that professional smile on me, and I stood in the middle of that kitchen holding a brochure I had not asked for, and I did not correct her. I said, "Thank you." I said it the way you say thank you when someone hands you a receipt. Automatic, level, my mouth doing a thing while my brain went completely still. Dana Marchetti has been my rival at work for 4 years. My name is Alina. I am 36, and Dana and I were hired the same week at a mid-sized architectural firm into the same associate position, under the same principal. Our desks are 14 feet apart. Our first 2 projects, we were staffed against each other, and I lost. And the principal told me in my review that Dana's line work was cleaner and my concept was better, and that in this field the line work is what ships. I have never quite forgiven Dana for the sentence, even though Dana did not say it. That is what I mean by rival. Until the Saturday of the open house, I would have told you, with a completely straight face, that I did not like Dana Marchetti. That she asked questions in meetings mostly designed to make her look thoughtful. That she remembered the names of clients' spouses in a way I found manipulative. That she wore expensive coats to construction sites and never got them dirty. That she had, at the last holiday party, told a story about me to our principal that made me sound worse in the telling than I had been in the actual event. And that I had been quietly, patiently waiting for the moment when I would outwork her and be promoted over her, and that moment was, as of that Saturday, 6 days away. Senior associate. 1 slot. Me or Dana. Everyone in the office knew it. Nobody said it out loud. The open house was Dana's idea, and I said yes to it for reasons I did not examine at the time and have examined a great deal since. On the Thursday before, Dana had come to my desk at 4:50 in the afternoon, when the office was thinning out, and she had leaned on the edge of my drafting table the way she leaned on things, with the specific casual authority of a person who does not consider whether the thing might mind being leaned on, and she had said, "There's an open house on Saturday morning on Prescott Avenue." That renovation we drove past in October. The one you said the massing was wrong on. It's on the market. Come look at it with me. I said, "Why?" she said. "Because you were right about the massing and I want to see what they did with it inside. And because I don't want to go alone. Realtors are weird to me when I go alone." I said, "Realtors are weird to you." She said, "I read as a specific kind of single woman to them, and I hate it. Come with me. It'll take an hour." I said, "The promotion is Friday." She said, "The promotion is Friday whether we look at a house on Saturday or not. Come." And she walked away before I could say no, which was, I have come to understand, the way Dana asked for things she wanted an answer to. I said yes because I was curious about the massing. That is the reason I told myself on Thursday night, and on Friday morning, and on Saturday morning while I was choosing a coat that was not the coat I would have worn to a work event. I was curious about the massing. I was curious about what a renovation team had done to a building I had, in October, in a car with Dana, pointed at through a windshield and said, "The proportions on the second story are going to fight the roof line forever." I was curious. That is what I told myself. The other reason, the one I did not tell myself, was that on Friday afternoon, 24 hours before the open house, our principal had called Dana and me into his office at the same time, together, and it told us that the promotion decision had been pushed to the following Friday because a senior partner was traveling, and that he wanted us both to know that the decision was, in his exact words, genuinely close, closer than I've had in years, and I want you both to spend the week doing your best work and not your most anxious work. And Dana and I had walked out of that office together, and Dana had said, in the hallway, quietly, that was a kind sentence. And it was also a completely useless sentence, and I hate him a little bit for saying it. And I had laughed. I had laughed out loud in the hallway of our office at a joke made by my rival about our principal, and I had felt for about 4 seconds like a person who had a friend at work. Then I had remembered who I was laughing with, and I had stopped laughing, and Dana had noticed me stop laughing. And Dana had said, "Ah, there you go, back to normal." And she had walked to her desk, and I had said yes to the open house 18 hours later. The house on Prescott Avenue was worse inside than we had expected, and better in specific rooms than we had expected, which is what my sister, who is not an architect, calls the standard architect verdict on any building. The proportions on the second story were in fact fighting the roofline, and Dana and I had a small, quiet argument about it on the landing that I have replayed with pleasure since. Because it was the kind of argument only 2 people who had been trained by the same principal in the same room for 4 years could have. And it lasted 11 minutes, and at the end of it, Dana said, "You were right in October, and you are right now. And I am going to tell you that out loud once because you deserve to hear it once, and then I am never going to say it again because I refuse to lose Friday." And I laughed again, twice in 24 hours. I had a small alarmed thought about this, and I filed it, and I followed Dana down the stairs. The Realtor found us in the kitchen. Her name was Maureen, and she wore a scarf pinned with a small enamel pin in the shape of a house, and she had the specific brisk warmth of a person who has decided, on sight, what kind of clients you are, and who is now going to sell to that version of you. She looked at Dana. She looked at me. She looked at the way Dana was standing about 8 inches closer to me than she had been standing on the landing 11 minutes earlier. Because the kitchen was small, and Maureen made her decision in the time it took to walk across the tile. She said, "Are you 2 thinking first home together? Or upgrade?" And Dana said, without a beat, without a breath, without looking at me, "First home together." And Maureen's face lit up in a way that was, I want to be honest, professional and completely genuine at the same time, because I think Maureen loved young couples the way some people love dogs, unironically. And she said, "Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Tell me about you 2. How did you meet?" I felt Donna take one small breath beside me, and I felt the breath in a way that made me understand I had been standing close enough to feel it. And Dana said, "We work together. We're architects. We've known each other 4 years." And Maureen said, "Oh, an office romance. How darling. Is it a secret at work?" And Dana said, "It is very much a secret at work." And Maureen laughed the delighted laugh of a woman who had, over a career, sold houses to a lot of secrets. And she said, "Your secret is safe with me. Come look at the light in the back bedroom." And she walked ahead of us into the hallway, and Dana did not move for a second, and I did not move for a second, and I looked at Dana, and Dana looked at the floor, and Dana said, very quietly, in the voice she used in meetings when she was about to say the things she actually thought, "I am sorry. That came out of me. I will fix it. Give me until we're outside." And I said, "Okay." I said okay to my rival, in the kitchen of a house on Prescott Avenue that I did not want to buy. I said okay, and I followed her down the hall, and Maureen showed us the light in the back bedroom. And Maureen was right about the light. We walked through the rest of that house, the three of us, and Maureen talked about the light and the plumbing and the roof, and Dana and I stood beside each other in room after room, and I could not tell you a single thing about any of those rooms except that Dana's coat sleeve brushed my coat sleeve twice, and Dana did not move her arm either time, and I did not move mine. And the second time it happened, Dana looked at me for exactly 1 second, and then looked away, and I felt something inside my chest do a small, unfamiliar, alarming thing that I did not have a professional word for. In the sunlit kitchen at the end of the tour, Maureen said, "Well, what do you two think?" And Dana said the sentence that put the whole thing in motion. She said, warm and bright, without looking at me, "My boyfriend and I love it. We'll take it." And Maureen turned her smile on me, and I stood there holding a brochure I had not asked for, and I said, "Thank you." I said, "Thank you." I said it in the voice my mother had trained into me at 7 years old, the voice you use to accept a compliment from a stranger about a dress you did not choose. And Maureen said something bright about paperwork and went to her car to get it, and the front door clicked shut behind her, and Dana and I were alone in a kitchen that did not belong to either of us, and I set the brochure down on the counter, and I said, "Dana," she said, "I know." I said, "You called me your boyfriend." She said, "I know." I said twice. She said, "I know. I am aware." I heard myself say it. I have been standing here for the last 4 minutes trying to figure out how to walk it back before Maureen gets to her car and back. I said, "Why did you say it?" And Dana Marchetti, who won the first competition, who had cleaner line work, who had told the story about me at the holiday party, who was going to compete with me for the senior associate slot in 6 days, put both her hands flat on the granite countertop of that kitchen and looked at them, not at me, and said, "Because I have known for about 1.5 years that I am going to lose Friday, and I have not been able to figure out why I care so much about losing it to you specifically, and about 10 minutes ago on the landing you told me the second story was fighting the roofline, and you were right. And I already knew you were right, and I felt a specific thing in my chest when you said it. And Maureen asked what we were, and I said the first true sentence that came into my mouth, and I am sorry, and I will fix it. And if you want to leave right now, I will call you a car, and I will handle Maureen, and I will act on Monday like this never happened. And you will get the promotion on Friday, and I will be glad." I said, "You think you are going to lose Friday?" She said, "Elena, I have known I am going to lose Friday since the October site visit. Your concept work has been better than mine for 18 months. I have been coasting on line work, and everyone in that office knows it, including me. I have been trying to figure out how to be a person who loses to you gracefully, and I have not been able to do it, and I have been mean about it in small ways. And I told the story at the holiday party, and I am sorry about the story at the holiday party. I have been sorry about it since December, and I did not know how to apologize for it without making it a bigger thing than it already was, and instead I asked you to come look at a house with me on the Saturday before the decision, because I wanted 1 hour with you where we were not competing. And I got the hour, and in the middle of the hour Maureen asked what we were, and my mouth said the sentence, and the sentence is the sentence, and I am sorry. I said, "That is a lot of sentences." She said, "I know." I said, "I need to sit down." We sat down. There was no furniture in the kitchen. We sat down on the floor of a kitchen that did not belong to either of us, with our backs against the cabinets, and I set my brochure on the tile between us, and Dana put her palms flat on her knees, and for maybe 40 seconds neither of us said anything, and I could hear a car door slam outside, which was probably Maureen's car door. But Maureen did not come back in, and I understood. thinking about Maureen later, that Maureen had probably looked through the bay window at the two of us sitting on her kitchen floor and had made a professional decision to give us 10 minutes. I said, "I have been calling you my rival for 4 years. Dana said, "I know. I heard you say it once in the kitchen at work." To Priya. In September. I said, "You heard that." She said, "Yes." I said, "I am sorry." She said, "Don't be. It was accurate. I have been calling you my rival too. Except, I have been calling you my rival because I have not wanted to call you the other thing, and I have not wanted to call you the other thing. Because if I called you the other thing, I would have to do something about it. And doing something about it would mean losing Friday for a different reason than the one I was already going to lose it for. And I have been trying to hold both of those things separate for 1.5 years. And I have not been successful. And today in the kitchen, the seam finally split. I said, "The other thing." She said, "Elena, please," I said. "I need you to say it." She said, "I have been in love with you since the review meeting where he told you the line work was what ships." I watched your face when he said it. I went back to my desk and I looked at my line work and I thought, my line work is not what ships. My line work is what I have instead of the thing Elena has. And Elena is going to figure that out in about 18 months. And when she does, she is going to be senior associate, and I am going to be the person she used to sit 14 feet from. And I started being mean about it that afternoon. At my desk, in my head. And I have been mean about it in small ways every week since. Because I have been very frightened. And I have been very frightened because the person I have been losing to is a person I would like to be losing to in a different room than the office, and I have not known what to do with that, and I still do not know what to do with that. And I said the sentence to Maureen because Maureen asked, and because for 4 minutes on a landing 11 minutes ago, you looked at me the way you look at a building whose proportions are wrong, and you told me the truth about it. And nobody has told me the truth about my line work in 4 years. And I wanted to be in a room with a person who told me the truth for 1 more hour before Friday. The refrigerator hummed. The refrigerator in a house neither of us lived in hummed. And I sat on the floor with my back against a stranger's cabinets, and I understood a thing I had been refusing to understand for at least 1 year, which was that I had been keeping track of Dana Marchetti's coat, and Dana Marchetti's line work, and the story Dana Marchetti told at the holiday party, and the exact number of feet between our desks, with the specific dedicated attention of a person who is not, in fact, indifferent. I had been telling myself the attention was rivalry. The attention had been attention. The word for it had been available the whole time. I had not picked it up. I said, "I am going to say something, and I need you to let me finish." She said, "Okay," I said. "I have been keeping a spreadsheet." She said, "What?" I said, "I have been keeping a spreadsheet of every project you and I have been staffed on for 4 years, with columns, for who led, who supported, whose concept was chosen, whose detail set went to the contractor, and whose client came back for the second phase. I started it 3 weeks after the review meeting. I have updated it after every project. I have looked at it before every performance review. I have looked at it before this performance review. I looked at it last night. I know the score. I have known the score for 18 months. The score is not what you think it is. Donna said, "What is it?" I said, 22-21. "You," she said, "that is not possible." I said, "Dana, I have been keeping the spreadsheet. It is possible. You have been winning by 1 for 2 years. Every time you think you are about to be caught, you close a client, and the number moves. You are not coasting on line work. You have been closing clients I cannot close because you remember their spouses' names and I do not, and you have been telling yourself the spouses' names are a manipulation. And they are not a manipulation. They are a skill. And it is a skill I do not have, and every time I sit down to update the spreadsheet I have, to look at the fact that the skill you have is not a lesser skill than the skill I have, and I have not wanted to look at that, so I have been calling you my rival, and I have been telling Priya in the kitchen in September that you are my rival, and I have been coming to work every day for 4 years pretending that the reason I pay attention to you is that I am trying to beat you, and the reason I pay attention to you is not that I am trying to beat you. Dana was quiet. I said, I do not know what the reason is. I have not let myself know. But it is not the reason I have been telling myself. And I did not know that until you said the sentence to Maureen, and I said thank you, and I meant it. Dana said, you meant it. I said, I meant it. That is the part I am the most frightened of. Maureen asked us what we were, and you said the wrong sentence, and I heard it, and I did not correct it. And I said thank you. And the sentence I said thank you to did not feel wrong in my mouth. It felt like a sentence I had been waiting to hear, said out loud in a room with a witness, so that I would not be able to unhear it. And I do not know what to do with that 6 days before the promotion decision. And I do not know what to do with the spreadsheet. And I do not know what to do with the fact that if I tell you the score is 22 to 21 you will spend the next 6 days trying to lose on purpose so that the number moves, and I cannot allow that. Because if you lose Friday on purpose, I will know. And if I know, then I will not have won. And I want to have won, or I want to have lost cleanly, and I do not want to be handed anything, especially not by you, especially not now. Dana said, I would not lose on purpose. I said, you would. You are already thinking about it. I can see it on your face. Dana said, I hate that you can see it on my face. I said, I know. That is also the problem. Maureen tapped on the front door, softly from the outside. She did not come in, she tapped. And then she said, through the door, take your time, loves. I am going to walk to the corner and back. And we listened to her heels go down the walkway, and Dana laughed, once a short surprised laugh, and she said, Maureen is going to sell a lot of houses in her career. And I laughed too, and I said, Maureen is a professional. And then neither of us was laughing, and Dana said, what are we going to do? I said, I do not know yet. But I know a few things I am not going to do. She said, okay. I said, I am not going to tell you the score on the spreadsheet is 22 to 21 until after Friday. I am telling you it is close. That is all I am telling you, because if I tell you the exact number, you will do something with it, and I will know. So you have to work the next 6 days the way you would have worked them if I had not sat down on this floor. That is the deal. She said, okay. I said, I am not going to tell anyone at the office about the sentence you said to Maureen. Not Priya. Not the principal. Not on Monday. Not on Friday. Not after Friday. That sentence stays in this kitchen. Whatever happens after Friday between us happens because we decide to have it happen, not because someone in the office found out about a sentence and had an opinion about it. That is the second part of the deal. She said, okay. I said, I am not going to tell you what I want to happen after Friday. Because I do not know, because I have not let myself know for 18 months. And I am not going to make that decision 6 days before the decision that has been ordering my life for 4 years, on a kitchen floor, in a house I do not want to buy. I am going to make it after. You are going to make it after. We are going to make it separately. And then, we are going to compare our answers. That is the third part of the deal. She said, okay. I said, the fourth part of the deal is that when Maureen comes back, you are going to tell her the truth. Not the whole truth. You are going to tell her we are not buying the house. You are going to be kind to her. You are not going to make her feel like she wasted her Saturday. She has been very kind to us. She did not have to walk to the corner. She walked to the corner. We are going to be kind back. Donna said, okay. I said, that is the deal. She said, that is the deal. Elena, one thing. I said, what? She said, whichever way Friday goes. I am glad it was you I was losing to. I have not been glad about it for 4 years, and I am glad about it now, and I wanted you to know that in a room where I could say it out loud before it happens, so that if I lose, I do not have to say it to you as a person who lost, and if I win, I do not have to say it to you as a person who won. I am saying it now, because right now, I am neither, and neither is the only place I can say it from, and be sure I mean it. I did not answer that. I could not. I sat on the floor of Maureen's kitchen, and I looked at Dana Marchetti, and I understood that the woman I had been calling my rival for 4 years had, in the space of about 11 minutes on a Saturday morning, said 3 separate sentences to me that I was going to be thinking about at 3 in the morning for the rest of my life, and that I did not have a sentence of my own that was equal to them yet. And that the honest thing was to not manufacture one on a kitchen floor. We got up. We walked to the front door. Maureen was coming back up the walkway with her paperwork under her arm, and she saw our faces, and she stopped on the second step, and she said, "Not this one, loves," and Dana said, "Not this one." I am so sorry. You have been very generous with your morning. And Maureen waved that away with the specific graciousness of a woman who had been a realtor for a long time, and she said, "Houses find who they find. This one is not for you today. Maybe not ever. That is not a failure. That is a Saturday." She looked at me, then at Dana, then back at me, and she said, "Only to me you take your time with the sentence you said thank you to. It was a real thank you." I heard it. Real thank yous are worth taking seriously. Go on. Go get some coffee. Come see me if the right one comes up. I sell a lot of houses. I have not sold one to a wrong-fit couple in 18 years, and I do not intend to start today. And she got in her car, and she waved through the window, and she drove away, and I stood on the sidewalk of Prescott Avenue next to Dana Marchetti, my rival for 4 years. And I understood that Maureen had said out loud, on a step, the sentence I had not been able to say in the kitchen, which was that the thank you had been real. Donna drove me home. We did not talk in the car. When she pulled up in front of my building, she put the car in park, and she looked at the steering wheel and she said, "Monday," and I said, "Monday," and she said, "6 days." And I said, 6 days. And I got out of the car, and I closed the door, and I went upstairs, and I sat on my couch in my coat for a long time, and I did not open my laptop, and I did not open my spreadsheet, and I did not answer the 2 texts from my sister asking how the open house was, and I sat on my couch, and I understood that on Monday morning at 8:45 I was going to walk into an office where my desk was 14 feet from Dana Marchetti's desk, and where the principal was going to look at both of us the way he had been looking at both of us for 18 months, and where I was going to have to do the best work of my week, without doing anxious work, and without doing performative work, and without letting anyone in that office read anything on my face that had been said on a kitchen floor. And I understood that I had 6 days. The Monday of that week is the day I want to tell you about next, because it is the day I almost broke the deal. At 11:20 in the morning, our principal called me into his office alone. He shut the door. He sat down. He said, "Elena, I want to talk to you about the Prescott thing." And the floor of his office went sideways in the specific way floors have been going sideways for me lately. I said, "The Prescott thing." He said, "The renovation on Prescott Avenue." The one you and Dana looked at in October from the car. It went on the market last week. The listing agent is a woman named Maureen, who I have known for 20 years. She called me on Saturday afternoon. I said, "Oh." He said, "She did not tell me what happened. She told me two of my architects had come through her open house together and had spent 40 minutes in the kitchen and had not bought the house, and she told me that she had enjoyed meeting both of them. And she wanted me to know that I had two very thoughtful associates, and that whatever I was deciding on Friday, I was deciding between two people who cared about buildings the way she cared. About the families who lived in them. That is what Maureen called to tell me. She did not tell me anything else. She is a professional, Elena. But she called. I did not say anything. I could not. He was watching my face the way he watched drawings, for the thing that had been left out. He said, "I am not asking you a question. I am telling you a thing. I have been doing this for 31 years. And I want to say one sentence to you before Friday. Whichever way Friday goes, the two of you are going to have to decide, separately and then together, whether you want to keep being architects in the same firm, or whether one of you needs to go somewhere else so that the other thing has room to be what it is. I have been seeing it for about a year, and I am not deciding Friday based on it. I am deciding Friday based on the work. Go back to your desk. Do the work. We will talk on Friday." I walked out of his office. Dana was at her desk. She looked up. She saw my face. She looked back down at her screen. She did not ask. She did not text me. She did not walk past my desk on the way to the kitchen. She did the thing she had promised to do in Maureen's kitchen, which was work the week the way she would have worked it if we had not sat on that floor. And I understood, watching her do it, that Dana Marchetti was much better at keeping a deal than I had ever given her credit for, and that this was one of the many things I had been refusing to know about her for 4 years. I got the promotion on Friday. I want to tell you that flatly, because the story is not about the promotion. The principal called us into his office together at 4 in the afternoon, and he said the sentence, and Dana shook my hand and she said, "Congratulations. It was close. It was correct." And she walked back to her desk, and she did the rest of Friday afternoon, and she left at 6 the way she always left at 6. And she did not look at me on the way out, and I understood that not looking was a kindness, and I understood that the deal was still holding. And I sat at my desk until 7. And I did not open the spreadsheet. And I did not text her. And I went home, and I called my sister, and I told her the whole thing, from Prescott to the principal to Friday. At the end she said, "Alina, what are you going to do?" I said, "I do not know yet. Monday, because Dana and I made a deal on a kitchen floor, and the deal is that we decide separately and compare, and Monday is when we compare." On Monday morning at 8:20, Dana walked to my desk with 2 cups of coffee, and she set one down in front of me, and she said, quietly, "I resigned on Sunday night. By email. I copied you. Check your inbox." And I said, "Dana," and she said, "Let me finish. One of us had to go, and I lost Friday. And staying would have asked you to carry the weight of what I said in Maureen's kitchen on top of the weight of being senior associate. I have had a job offer at another firm since October. I have been sitting on it because I did not want to leave until I lost to you cleanly, and I have. It is across town. Our paths will not cross professionally very much, which means the third part of the deal, the part about deciding separately and comparing, is still on. I have decided separately. My answer is yes. Yes to whatever the sentence I said to Maureen turns out to have been. Yes to being told the truth by you in rooms where nobody is graded on line work. Yes to Saturdays that are not open houses. I am not asking for yours today. I am telling you mine, so that when you decide yours, you decide it against a real answer. The coffee is yours. I will be gone by lunch." And she walked back to her desk, and she started putting things in a box, and I sat at my desk holding a cup of coffee my rival had just handed me. And I understood that I had 6 hours to decide the thing I had been refusing to decide for 18 months, and Dana had known I needed a deadline, and Dana had given me one. I walked over to her desk at 11:40. She was taping a box. I said, "Dana, lunch, the place on the corner." 12:15, not as co-workers, as the thing we did not have a word for on a kitchen floor. My answer at lunch, yes or no, in a room with a witness, because that is how you and I apparently do this now. She looked up from the box. She said, 12:15. And I said, 12:15. And I walked back to my desk, and I did the last hour of the morning as the senior associate of a firm I had been trying to be the senior associate of for 4 years. And I did the work, and I did it well, and at 12:12 I put on my coat. And I walked to the place on the corner, and Dana was already there, at a table by the window, in a coat that was, for the first time in 4 years, slightly dirty at the hem from carrying a box down a fire stair, and she looked up when I came in, and I sat down across from her. And I said the sentence I had decided at 10:47 that morning, and I will not tell you what the sentence was, because I have decided that the sentence belongs to Dana and to me, and to the waitress who took our order 30 seconds after I said it, and to nobody else in the world. That was 14 months ago. Donna works at the firm across town. I am still senior associate at the old firm. We do not talk about work when we are together, which is a rule Donna made and I agreed to on the second date. Maureen sold us a house 6 months ago, a different house, a much better house, on a street neither of us had ever walked down, with proportions that do not fight each other, and a kitchen with room for 2 chairs against the cabinets. Maureen came to the housewarming. She wore the enamel pin in the shape of a house. She told the story of the Saturday on Prescott Avenue to my sister who cried, and to Dana's mother, who did not cry, but who took Maureen's hand across the counter and held it for a full minute. I keep the spreadsheet in a folder on my laptop I never open. I have not updated it since Friday of that week. The final score is 22-22. It is going to stay 22-22 forever. That is the correct final score for a rivalry that turned out to be an attention I did not have the word for. I am at peace with the number. I am at peace with the tie. 6 months after Dana left, at a firm event, the principal found me by the window with a glass of wine, and he said, quietly, "I did not know on Friday. I want you to know that." I had not made the decision until Friday morning at 7. I looked at the work and I made the call, and the call was you. It was not a call about the Prescott thing. Dana knew it was going to be real. That is why Dana left. Dana left so that you would never be able to wonder. I have watched a lot of people leave a firm for a lot of reasons. Dana left for the best reason I have ever seen anyone leave a firm. And he touched my elbow once, and he walked away, and I stood by the window with my wine, and I understood, for the first time cleanly, what Dana had been telling me on the floor of Maureen's kitchen. She had not been telling me she was going to lose gracefully. She had been telling me she was going to lose in a way that made sure I got to keep the win. She had been telling me she loved me, in the vocabulary of 2 architects, 6 days before a decision that had ordered both of their lives for 4 years. She had been telling me. I had heard her. I had said thank you. And I had meant it. So I want to ask you 2 things before I go. And I want you to think about them. And if either of them puts a specific person in your mind, I want you to tell me about that person in the comments. Because I read every one, and the ones that stay with me are the ones where somebody finally says out loud a thing they have been carrying quietly for a long time, in the wrong vocabulary. Have you ever realized, standing in a room you did not belong in, next to a person you had been calling by the wrong word for years, that the word had been wrong the whole time, and that the person had known it was wrong before you did, and had been waiting for a room with a witness in it, so that you could hear yourself say the right word out loud without being able to take it back? And the harder one, the one I really want you to sit with. Who is the person in your life right now that you have been keeping a spreadsheet on, in whatever form your spreadsheet takes? And what would it cost you? And what would it give you back to close the spreadsheet and go get a cup of coffee and use a different word? If this story reached you tonight, tell me about them and subscribe, because there is a follow-up to this one, and it is about the sentence I said to Dana at 12:15 in the place on the corner, and about what Dana said back, and about the 6 months in between when we almost lost each other twice before Maureen sold us the second house.